Morning, 6:30 on your Friday, March 4th, 2016. I'm Collin, Ruane.
I'm Judy.
And I'm Tim Schmidt.
Drivers are skeptical on whether new leadership will change how the highway system works.
And that new leadership at the organization that oversees MoDOT could be making driving experience a little smoother. KOMU 8's Vivian Tran is here in the studio to tell us what some drivers think.
I spoke to
All right, Tim, thank you. Today marks the retirement of a Columbia City prosecutor as the city prepares to welcome 2 new employees. Jack McManus will take over as city prosecutor in April. He has 30 years of legal experience in Columbia and teaches at MU's law school. Michelle Nix is the new finance director, and she'll be sworn in at this Monday's city council meeting. She's a public accountant, most recently the CFO at Mosher's. Both hires come during the final month of Mayor Bob McDavid's term. All right, this is probably my favorite story of the day. A New York woman found herself in handcuffs after police spotted her handcrafted artwork. 28-year-old Amanda Schweikert was pulled over in Springfield, New York after police noticed she was missing a front license plate. But this is the plate that really drew the attention. It was that rear plate that had them looking twice. Schweikert was using a painted piece of cardboard for a license plate. The homemade plate was designed using blue and gold paint to model a New York plate, though was not very convincing.
This weekend. Yesterday, we learned about a mid-Missouri couple who'd won $3.3 million.
I always run that scenario through my head about what I'd do with that kind of money all the time. We went to visit not only the place that had sold the ticket, but also the winner. KOMU 8's Colby Satterfield reports.
A police chief's report that a black man drew a gun before he was fatally shot by an officer caught mourners in North Carolina off guard as they prepared to lay him to rest.
The funeral for 24-year-old Akhil Dinkins was scheduled less than a day after the preliminary report was issued, saying Dinkins pulled a gun from his waistband and then reached toward the officer's weapon during a struggle. Dinkins' death at the end of a foot chase had angered members of the predominantly black neighborhood where the shooting had happened.
For us, but by the afternoon and for the whole weekend in general, pretty mild outside.
Like these weekends have been really warm lately.
They really have. There are wave pattern that we kind of look at. Really looks like that. Next weekend, maybe not so much.
We're not going to worry about that.
Let's just worry about right now.
On today.
It's my job to communicate this.
Thanks, Tim.
All right, thanks. Economists are preparing a report to review the state of February's economy. Economists are predicting last month saw the creation of nearly 200,000 jobs, up from January's 151,000. While fossil fuel and manufacturing industries have faced layoffs due to foreign factors, construction companies, retailers, and healthcare have supplemented the job loss with a trend of new hires. Here's a look at what's new right now. Scientists may have found cancer's Achilles heel. London scientists say they may have found markers unique to cancer that will better allow the body to target the disease. The idea is still in the conceptual phases and has yet to be tested in humans. China says they'll increase military spending by about 8% this year. That spending increase is the smallest China has seen, and the People's Liberation Party plans to cut their military by 300,000 troops. That's what's happening right now. Now here's news near your neighborhood. Live look over downtown Columbia. It is 5:25 on your Friday morning. We'll be right back. We'll talk about this the past couple days. Thousands of moviegoers are gathering here in downtown Columbia this weekend. This is the 13th year for TrueFalse. While the festival attracts national and even international recognition, there's still a lot of locals who take in films over the weekend. You can check out KOMU.com for the full schedule of showings this weekend, and be sure to stay tuned to KOMU 8 News all weekend for a look into the festival. Welcome to KOMU 8 News, today's Top 8. These are the stories making headlines in the day ahead. A congressional delegation is on its way to Flint, Michigan to hear from families affected by that water crisis. There's a group of a dozen members from both the House and Senate. House Minority Leader Nancy Pelosi is one of those in attendance. A French aviation investigative team is examining a report that a drone came uncomfortably close to colliding with an airline flying into a Paris airport. The co-pilot reports having seen a drone just 16 feet away as an Airbus flight prepared to land. North Korean leader Kim Jong-un reportedly instructed his military to be prepared to discharge nuclear weapons at, quote, any time in the face of growing enemy threats. According to a North Korean news outlet, Kim made the comments while supervising an exercise with new multiple rocket launchers. The report said Kim also wants the military ready to carry out preemptive attacks. A jury convicted a Virginia woman on 4 counts of child cruelty after running a baby fight club from a classroom of 2-year-olds. Kara Spriggs could face up to 5 years in prison on each felony count, as well as a year each for 2 misdemeanor charges. This is the second major case like this in that area alone. Frozen freight arrived in Alaska delivering supplies for today's ceremonial start to the world's premier dog sled race, the Iditarod. It took 4 hours to unload 350 cubic yards of snow shipped from Fairbanks. The snow will be used to help create a 3-mile trail for the ceremony impacted by warm weather. Anchorage has only received about 27 inches of snow this year, when the city normally has more than 60 inches. Russia's deputy foreign minister engaged in a sit-down meeting with U.S. ambassador to Russia in order to discuss the nearly week-old ceasefire in Syria. The Russian ministry did not elaborate on what was discussed behind closed doors. Russia's minister also spoke with a Syrian opposition leader in hopes of resuming United Nations Syrian peace talks.
New developments in the wreckage of Flight 370 found earlier this week. The families of 12 passengers are now suing the plane carrier and the government.
The Boeing 777 carrying 239 passengers back in 2014 flew off course for unknown reasons. A global aviation agreement set a 2-year limit for lawsuits by loved ones of the deceased. That period will be here in just a matter of days. All the suits are seeking unspecified damages for claims of negligence. The United Nations Human Rights Chief is urging the FBI to proceed with caution in its case against Apple. The chief expressed concern about damaging implications and said the dispute could lead to the opening of a, quote, Pandora's box. An SUV vehicle inspection at a border checkpoint in Southern California uncovered a Brazilian man tightly compacted in a gas tank. Patrol officers found the man using imaging software. The vehicle, driven by a U.S. citizen, had been modified for smuggling people. In presidential politics, what had been Cruz versus Rubio is now becoming Cruz and Rubio versus Trump. The strategy shift was on full display at last night's Republican debate, and it's expected to continue in the weeks to come. Cruz and Rubio, ignoring each other, are fully focused on stopping Trump's runaway train toward the Republican nomination. What now remains is a full-bore effort to keep Trump's delegate count as low as possible, preventing him a majority of delegates, with hopes someone else could be selected at what's being referred to as a contested convention. Also complicating plans is that Trump, if denied the nomination at the convention, could easily mount a third-party bid with his millions in both followers and cash. You could say the GOP debate brought the worst out of all the candidates, but one accusation against Trump stands to bring his entire campaign platform into question. Trump's rival candidates hammered him for refusing to release tapes from an alleged off-the-record interview he had with the New York Times. In this interview, Trump supposedly stated, want to say supposedly, that he would not deport all 11 million undocumented immigrants living in America right now. The statements against Trump directly contradict Trump's campaign built largely on immigration reform.
I'm softening the position because we have to have talented people in this country.
These new developments bring Trump's true views on immigration into question. New insights this morning into the failed campaign of Ben Carson. Carson raised more money than any other GOP contender at $58 million. But Carson's campaign used the majority of that money on fundraising and consultants than on mass media advertising, according to campaign finance reports. Carson is now questioning whether his campaign aides might have taken advantage of him. Closing arguments will happen today in the Erin Andrews lawsuit. The broadcaster is suing a man who secretly took nude videos of her in a Nashville hotel back in 2008. Andrews is also suing the hotel management and hotel owner. After a trial of less than 2 weeks, closing arguments are expected today. Andrews is suing for negligence, invasion of privacy, and infliction of emotional distress. She is seeking $75 million. A man who had been on death row in Texas but is no longer now stands accused of holding a Colorado woman hostage in his home for 4 months. Authorities say 61-year-old Claude Wilkerson held a 26-year-old homeless woman against her will in his basement and repeatedly raped her earlier this year. Wilkerson had the help of a 14-year-old runaway girl. Authorities say they became suspicious after a tip from the 14-year-old. Welcome back. Hard to see what's in that image. A town in northwest China is hidden under a sheet of dust as massive sandstorms blew through the area. It looks like snow right there. The cloud was so thick you could not see past 100 yards. Schools canceled classes and train service was brought to a halt. All right, coming up today on KOMU 8 News at noon, if you're on Facebook, you've seen them, those popular Facebook quizzes. They might seem harmless, but in some cases, hackers are actually using them to get your personal information. We'll tell you how to protect your cyber self and how you can tell whether the quiz you are taking could be harmful. Join us for KOMU 8 News starting at 12 o'clock.
I can never get those to actually work. It takes forever for those quizzes to actually load up.
Do you get frustrated?
That could be the reason why I'm being hacked.
Exactly. Yeah. Just don't open yourself up to any conflict.
Have a great weekend, everyone.
See ya.